Morning, folks. This is Big Al's Topic Mixer, and I'm glad to see y'all this morning. I just want to give a quick reaction to the debate last night. Sorry, I should have made the reaction video after the debate, but I was tired. Um, all I can say is I watched that debate last night. There were several moments during the debate when I was cringeworthy. It was just not the best thing in the world I've ever seen. And I mean cringeworthy on both sides. Okay. Um, let's start at COVID-19. COVID-19. Well, you know, Trump pretty much put his same proposal out there talking about what he would do or what he hasn't done and all of these things. Uh, and asked him about the mask. And he said, well, I wear one. I got one right here in my pocket. I wear one when I need to. He says, no big deal about the mask. Then Biden said the same thing, except he said something more. He said, the scientists suggest that you wear a mask, you should wear a mask, and that's what you should do. And then Trump interrupted and said, of course, well, they went back and forth about whether you should wear a mask or not, whether they're effective or not, yada, yada, yada. And he said, well, you said you wouldn't, do you trust the scientists on this thing? And he's like, well, we're going to have a vaccine. I'm working with the companies to get a vaccine. We're going to have it in a few months. Yeah, we're going to have that vaccine available soon. And fact checking that, found out that it's probably going to be the middle of next spring, maybe even summer, before we have a vaccine that's really available to the public, because it's all about distribution. It's all about other issues that come up along the way. Usually it starts with the workers and the handicap and the most needed people to get those shots to. Then it finally gets to the general public and everybody gets the shot. So, like I said, we got another wave coming in October. I don't know exactly where he was going with that, Biden didn't say really that much that was different about this, so both of them it was like, I can't say either one scored a point. I think Biden ends up winning just because Trump eventually just went off the rails about the whole thing, talking about he didn't really have a policy and he was sitting at home with his mask on. They asked him about the rallies and the crowd size and stuff, and that's where Trump really went off the rails, because he was talking about, I had big rallies. I got rallies with thousands of people. Meanwhile, he's somewhere with a few, because he can't get anybody to draw people to his crowds and all that. It's not about drawing people to your crowds. It's about thinking about the fact that COVID-19's out there and you're drawing people to your events. But to you, the only thing that mattered was the fact that people were coming to your events, not that they might catch COVID-19. See, that's the difference between him and Biden. That's where that difference came in. He was saying, I brought thousands of people. Biden has events with a few 500 because he can't draw anybody. He can't get anybody to come to his events. And it's not that. His people on his side probably don't think of COVID-19 the way people do on Trump's side. Let's just put it that way. And he'd rather have a smaller events and less people there for that purpose. And he says, I see him wearing a mask all the time. That's what Trump says. I see him wearing a mask all the time. Everywhere he's got a mask on. I don't feel the need to do that. Sometimes, if I feel safe, I don't wear it. But I do have one just in case. When the camera's off, Trump wears the mask. That's what he needs to tell you. So, okay. That was COVID-19. Let's talk about climate change, because there's some other ones I'm going to get to, and I have way off feelings about those. All right, so they asked him a few questions about climate change in California, about climate change and the issues in California. So Trump started with this whole speech about they need to clean the forest because, brush and fallen trees can start fires. And said California has a heavy problem with that. They've got too much brush. Maybe Trump has never been to a forest, but all forests have a lot of brush and fallen trees, and they don't catch fire just like that. Not saying that it couldn't happen, because we've had some forest fires near me. I know when we had one in Georgia in 2007, and we had some in Florida. So they can't happen, but we don't manage the forest floor by going out there and cleaning them all the time. I mean, it's not something we do. And the cost would be tremendous to go out there and clean every forest floor, and it would take months, and you still would miss a large portion of the forest floor. So I'm not even going to go there with that. That was a weird kind of comment for that. I think Joe Biden scored the biggest points on this because he talked about his climate change policy and all that. Trump tried to score points by asking if he was with AOC on their plan, because he said it's going to cost trillions of dollars. And Biden basically said, no, I'm for my plan. He said, yeah, and you just lost the, now this is something he said that was interesting. He said, you just lost the progressive vote. Trump had a strategy last night. His strategy last night was to go after that progressive vote because he didn't want Biden to look very progressive, because progressives are on the line as to whether they will vote for him or not. I'm a progressive for the most part, but it didn't change my vote, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So we really didn't get into a question about foreign policy. There really wasn't a real question about foreign policy at all. We did get into the ACA. A question about the ACA. Wallace kind of went after Trump on this, and he did it for the point of the debate. So he said, you're coming out with a plan. He said, well, I've got a great plan. The only thing that Trump did, and it means absolutely nothing, is he did an executive order that banned insurance companies from denying people with pre-existing conditions insurance. That's the only thing he did. Like an executive order means anything. It actually means nothing in this case. There's nothing an executive order can do. It has no teeth in that case. It would have to be in law. And even that is not enough to fix the insurance problem in the United States. It really isn't, because insurance is going to be expensive for employees. I can tell you, I came from a job where if you had family on your insurance, there were people making $9, $10, $11 an hour who were paying $365 per paycheck for insurance. So that's not going to fix the situation at all. Insurances can be expensive, extremely expensive. And even through employees, a lot of people think, I got a great employee plan. And it depends on where you work. If you're working in a union shop, probably got it great because you're probably not even paying a dime for it. Your employer is. And that's something I've always said about insurance. If you go to universal insurance, it helps a lot of people save money, including employees, because now we got this government paid insurance that comes from our tax dollars. We're not paying premiums every month on our account, and companies don't have to invest millions of dollars in insurances every year. They could put that money back into their employees or in other things. Yeah, sure, their taxes would go up, but it wouldn't be as bad because you would invest that money in your employees. Now, I'm going off the rails because none of that was said last night. Biden, of course, said what the ACA was and how it helped 20 million people get insurance. I couldn't really understand where Trump was going with what he was saying. He just kept saying, I got a better plan. It's going to be cheaper. Cheaper usually means less coverage, not a good plan. So last thing I remember Republicans saying about coverage was preventative care. And then not even preventative care. It was more like making sure people worked out every day, getting discounts for a workout, and maybe your visit to the doctor, but it wouldn't pay for major medical. And that's scary. So he's probably looking at one of those Christian plans. And nothing against Christianity because I'm a Christian. What I'm talking about, there's these Christian care plans out there that help people pay for their doctor bills. Now, when a major medical situation comes, they cannot pay. They can't pay for it because it's too expensive, even though you're paying into this every month. It's not an insurance. It's kind of like Reagan's plan to fix healthcare back in the day. It's kind of like flexible spending accounts, savings accounts. In other words, you got to take all your money and put it in one of these accounts. It's non-taxable. They won't tax you for it, but flexible accounts are good if you need that little extra money, but it's still coming out of your paycheck every month. So it's extra money out of your paycheck. What would be the difference between that and having universal health care? To me, absolutely nothing. It's the same thing. And the problem with that is every time you go to the doctor, it's not a doctor that's looking at your money, you spending your money. It's the IRS, and sometimes they'll make you send in a form to say why you had this charge at the doctor that you paid for. It's my money. If I go to the doctor for what it says I'm using it for, that's all that should matter. That's beside the point. So, again, I'm going off the rails. Basically, Trump didn't have anything to say because he was kind of stuck on this one. Biden got stuck on the question about the cost, about how this would be handled and things like that. And I don't think they talked too much about the tax plan last night. But Biden basically wants to tax anyone over $400,000, and you're going to add up to 25% on that. He did talk about that. Donald Trump just went off the rails about going after people and trying to tax people to death, and then started talking about how he's been good to veterans and all that. Oh, that whole conversation about being good to veterans. Donald Trump basically attacked Biden and Biden's camp, saying that, that story came from Biden's camp. They tried to attack me. It was a non-story. It's fake news. I didn't say that about veterans. Now, I do remember him saying this, and Biden kind of went off the rails, too. He was getting upset. It's all about his son, Hunter Biden. He was talking about that. They started talking about Hunter Biden. Trump talked about his other son, the one who died, who was a veteran, who fought in Iraq. And Trump said, I don't know nothing about him. All I know is about Hunter Biden, the son that was on drugs that got kicked out of the military. Yeah. Went off the rails. Off the rails about that. And it was pretty sick. Biden said, well, my son, he had a drug problem, sure, but he recovered and he's a better person today. That was fine for him to say that. It's okay, but that whole thing was off the rails. It went off the rails. But Trump got him away from the subject that he was talking about. That's the thing. He never got a chance to mention the fact that he talked about McCain the way that he supposedly talked about those troops over there in Europe. See, he said I like soldiers that don't get captured. That's what he said about McCain. He said some other disparaging things about McCain on his military record. That was sickening. That was sick. You can't do that to a man who's a vet who, like I said, served our country. He sacrificed by being a prisoner of war. And that's a serious thing. It's like you serve in the country, get captured by the enemy, and you have to go through all that torture and pain that he went through. Yet, you got a president here who was a draft dodger, which Biden reminded him and Trump reminded him, Biden. But Trump was a draft dodger. Literally a draft dodger. You can't say, there's nothing, you can't say much about that, but he was, talking about his foot pain and all the other stuff. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, so, we're getting into the meat of the debate. Talk about climate change, talk about COVID, talked about the ACA, then came the whole thing about, basically you can say the Black Lives Matter or civil rights and all that. He didn't ask him a question about voting rights or anything like that. He asked him point blank, he said, he asked Trump, Chris Wallace, would you denounce rioting? This is what he asked Biden, actually. Would you denounce rioting and send in the National Guard? Biden kind of danced around the question, wouldn't answer, and that's when Trump went off the rails. He's talking about, I'm all for law and order. I'm all for law and order. I sent in the marshals and they dominated. The guy was getting killed. The young man got killed in the streets. Okay, stop. Point one. There was another young man in the street with a gun that killed 2 people. Don't want to talk about that. He, which Biden brought up, he got the police, the military, whoever they were, to people with pepper spray and rubber bullets to clear the streets so he could go do a campaign video with a Bible, which he was holding upside down. Anyway, so he went off the rails about that whole thing. He just went totally out in left field. You know, and you can hear him in the background why Biden was trying to make his comments about unity and the need for unity and so forth. He just went off the rails, went crazy. So then finally Chris Wallace turned to him and said, "Hey, Trump, will you denounce white supremacy?" "Sure." That's what Trump said. "Sure, I'll denounce it. You just tell me what group, any group. I'll denounce it. Any group." So, and he basically was trying to block Chris Wallace off. I mean, white supremacy is white supremacy. All you say is, "I'm going to denounce white supremacy." That's all you had to say. Yes, I denounce white supremacy. No, he couldn't say, "Sure, I'll denounce it. You give me a group, Proud Boys." Okay. Okay, well, this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to tell them like this. Stand down and stand by. And then he went off the rails about how it's the liberals' fault. All this is on this the left. It's all about the left and these. And that's the other thing he kept talking about. He kept talking about these Democratic mayors and all these cities. Okay, Tulsa, things that happen in Kentucky. There are Republicans there, Republican governors. Never mind. He just went off the rails. He went off the rails. And basically he bemoaned the left, talking about it's the leftists that are doing all of this, yada, 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 yada. In other words, he did not denounce the racists. Done. I was done with it after that. Just like, phew, that was not the neck cut. I don't want y'all to think that was the neck cut. I was just like, done. I'm just done. I was done with Trump. Period. After that one, he couldn't denounce it. He just couldn't do it. He, in fact, told the Proud Boys to stand down. So then he goes on to go off the rails about voting. And in the process, he said, "I want my people at the polls to watch, to be there to watch and see if any irregularities happen." So I'm assuming that's his campaign people, not the Proud Boys, but from what I'm watching, it could be the Proud Boys. I'm just saying, it could be. It really could be the Proud Boys. I was shocked, just literally shocked by some of the things he said. And then after that, he just went off the rails about there's literally ballots in trash cans with the word Trump on them. They're in the trash cans. There's military ballots that are floating in the river with the word Trump on it. The mailmen are selling ballots. "Hey, mailman, I just want to know, I need to buy one of them ballots if you got one. Hit me up. I need to buy a ballot." Yeah. That was the almost off the rail. He, at this point, knew he was losing. He lost. He had lost with the white supremacy thing, so when he got here, he was done. It was like, it was just off the rails. It made no sense, none of the stuff he was saying. He's repeating all the stuff you've seen on all these websites like the Daily Wire and Fox News and all these other places, and none of them are founded. I mean, they have no teeth. None whatsoever. So here he is with this story. 0.005% of mail-in voting has been fraudulent. 0.005. And guess who's been mostly involved in that fraud? Republicans. There have been some Democrats, but definitely Republicans. Okay. So that was all off the rails. So in the end, what does it say? My vote hadn't changed. Most people's votes hadn't changed because of this debate. A lot of people weren't watching this debate, but there were a lot of people who were watching this debate and were completely disappointed by what they saw. Even people I know personally who aren't very political were so disappointed by what they saw in this debate. I know some Christian people who were really upset by what they heard last night. We can talk about the Supreme Court. I forgot about the Supreme Court thing. Well, Biden really had no answer for that either, because they asked him if he would pack the courts, and he said he kind of danced around that question. And Trump may have won on that point because he said, I'm the president in office now. I have a Republican Senate. The one thing he lied about was he said you guys forgot to fill those seats. That's technically not the problem. The problem was the Senate was controlled by Republicans. Therefore, the Democrats couldn't fill those seats. They were blocking everybody that Clinton had brought to the table. So they even blocked the Supreme Court nomination. So, and now we got a Republican president and a Republican Senate, so they can do whatever they want, basically. Don't like it, but it is what it is. So on that issue, he won. What was there to lose? I mean, the only thing is we're going to lose the ACA, might lose the Voting Rights Act, could lose affirmative action, definitely abortion. They're going to put that on the table as soon as they can. If it comes up in court, it's probably going to be a bad thing. We'll see. Like I said, we shall see. In conclusion about this whole debate, it was like bad gumbo or bad clam chowder. It stinks. It was awful. Biden stuck to his guns the best he could. He had to go off. Sometimes he said the word shut up, and he called him a liar several times. You know, he reminded people that Trump wasn't stable a couple of times too. So, just to be honest with you, I'm just ready for the vote. Here's what I'm going to say today. Make sure you're registered to vote. If you still have time to send in the mail-in ballots, check with your state. See what you need to do that if you want to do the mail-in. But when you go to the polls, make sure you got your mask. If you can, take some hand sanitizer with you. Get ready for this. This is the time to vote. Again, like I said, I don't think too many people changed their mind on what side they were on. Maybe some people who were in the undecided category have decided. Trump was hoping that he would make all the progressives just go away. A Trumpless world, well, you can watch the Hills video on that. I'll tell you what, a Trumpless world is so much better than the one we got right now. I'm hoping things will change. Let's put it this way. People are marching in the streets because of injustice. The riots come because there's some social economic situations that we need to fix. Do I believe in rioting? No. I'm not condoning rioting or any of those things. This debate was a riot. Absolute riot. I mean, you're talking about buildings being destroyed and cars set on fire. Trump did a lot of that. And it wasn't to the good. Anyway, y'all have a wonderful rest of the day. And again, if you like this video, hit like below. Please comment. And if you would, please share this with your friends. I'm trying to get up my viewership. I'm just starting to really get off the ground. I'm sorry I haven't made a video in a while. But if you're watching this, I hope you like it. Y'all have a wonderful day.